We are broadcasting to YouTube now, Dr. Balistraci.
Okay. Good evening. It is Thursday, June 25th. This is the Guilford Board of Education. We are having a meeting tonight to allow for public input on the Guilford High School mascot. As many of you may be aware, we have been discussing the Guilford High School mascot for a number of weeks on the Board of Education. We have received a great deal of email communication from members of the public who were interested in us addressing this issue. And so tonight is an opportunity for people to address the board with their comments and thoughts on this issue as well. I just want to, because we are in a virtual setting, I just want to give people a sense of how we're going to carry this public forum forward. There is for people who have joined and might be interested in speaking, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. This is a place, if you are interested in being heard from the Board of Ed, this is a place to enter your name and your Guilford address. This is not a place to enter your questions, just simply your name and your Guilford address. When we see your name pop up, we will take people in order that it appears and then call on you. When you are called on, you will be given access into the meeting. Your video will be displayed, so we will see you and we will hear you. Please know that this meeting is being streamed live to YouTube so that others who are interested in hearing or seeing the meeting but not interested in necessarily commenting to us can see these proceedings as they go. A couple of ground rules, please. There will be a 3-minute comment period for each individual. This is to make sure that we allow as many people as may want to speak to us tonight. I will please ask that when you speak, you are aware of the time, and please know that if the time gets close to 3 minutes, we are going to remind you that there is a 3-minute limit, and we are going to stick to that really in order to give everyone a chance. I'm going to ask that your comments be respectful, no swearing. I'm going to ask you to stick to your opinions. We are not interested in having people characterizing or disrespecting people who have opposing views. This is simply a chance for us to hear your thoughts on the Guilford High School mascot. We are going to end the meeting at 10 o'clock. We are hoping that 3 hours gives us plenty of time to hear anyone who's interested in speaking. If for some reason we are not able to get to you by 10 o'clock, please reach out to us via email. We are interested in your thoughts. Dr. Freeman, I think I've covered everything, but I'm just going to check in with you in case there's anything I forgot.
No, Dr. Balistraci, I think you did get everything. I do want to reply to one comment that I see coming in. The Q&A box that we are using as a speaker queue for this conversation is not being broadcast to YouTube. So addresses that speakers enter into that Q&A box is not being live streamed to the YouTube channel. However, I do want to note that at any Board of Education meetings, speakers are asked to state their name and their address, and those meetings are recorded and broadcast locally in Guilford. So I would note that if you would prefer not to speak publicly on camera, stating your name and address, that Dr. Balistraci and I and the full Board of Education continue to receive emails. If you would rather share your opinion on this topic via email, you may send one directly to me, to Dr. Balistraci, or to the full Board of Education at guilfordschools.org. Thank you, Dr. Balistraci.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in, whether you've tuned in again to comment or are watching on YouTube. Let's just get started. So the first person who's requested to be heard is D. Jacob. So D, we're going to wait to have you invited in.
Thank you, Dr. Balistraci and the Board of Education. I just want to check that you can hear me.
Absolutely. We can see you and hear you. Thank you so much.
I am D. Jacob, 61 Cherry Street, Guilford, Connecticut. I am a child of the 1950s where Cowboys and Indians was what we played. It was what was represented on TV. It didn't necessarily mean that it was accurate or historical or appropriate. I'm a child of the 60s that lived through the teachings of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. I'm a child of the 90s, having been in South Africa with Mandela. What I understand is that even though growing up with white privilege and having history taught to me that may or may not have been correct, it doesn't mean that, in my opinion, we should continue things that we know to be inappropriate. As the Board of Ed sets a foundation for diversity, inclusion, and equity, we can't maintain a mascot that's named incorrectly after a group of human beings whose existence has been demeaned and decimated over the centuries. I want to encourage the Board of Ed to eliminate the use of the current mascot and to act expeditiously. A question Martin Luther King asked on the steps of the Montgomery State Capitol was, how long? And he answered, not long. For us, I asked that question, how long? And I hope the answer is not long. And as Dr. King said, because it's not long because the arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. This is an issue of justice. This is an issue of dignity. And I encourage you to eliminate the mascot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee.
Next, Brendan Regan, please.
Hello.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, you can see me and hear me?
We can
Okay.
see you and hear you. So if you would state your name and your address, and then
Hi.
we would love to hear your comment.
Yep. I'm Brendan Regan, 4141 Durham Road in Guilford. I played on the soccer team my senior year. I remember it had to be in 2012 when we were hearing about the mascot name being disrespectful, and the conversation's been going on longer than that. So here I am 8 years later, and we're still talking about it. To have a mascot to represent sports teams is a rare occurrence in the United States, even for soccer. Um, you know, that's named after a city and a town in other countries. And so that being said, we need a mascot that represents something that everyone in the town, can back with pride if we're going to have one. This fall when we beat Daniel Hand at West Haven on our way to states, other than the goal that we had scored, the only other thing I can remember is that the Daniel Hand students were trying to discredit our win by saying that our mascot was racist. And, that's not something that, we like to hear after we had just won an important game. And I want to give some context for this because I made an allegory in one of a previous comments that I had. And it goes like this. It says, let's imagine if the roles were reversed. Let's say we lived in Italy where Italians are an ethnic minority because the Irish came through and became the majority. The Irish people had a rugby team depicting an Italian leader. The team's name was the Florence Australians. So this is sort of what we have going on in Guilford. I think we just need to understand more of, the context of where we came from, and it starts to make more sense when we do that. And beyond the symbolism, there's so much more that could be done. At the very least, Native American culture and history, of the 5 recognized tribes in Connecticut should be in the curriculum. either by elective or, in my opinion, a graduation requirement when you take the U.S. history course. We have an opportunity for field trips, ceremonies, and guest speakers, and they'll all become valuable learning experience. And I don't think in my time there this was even a thought, but I could be wrong. We have student-teacher volleyball games. I know we can allocate the time and space for those who educate, perform ceremonies, and inform. Not only is it the right thing to do, but the history and values to be learned are priceless as a teachable moment. Right now we have discussions that are already on, step 10, and we're still kind of on step 1, dealing with something like I mentioned that we were talking about 8 years ago when I was there, and probably even longer from some of the other experiences that I'm hearing. So even if we get this done, we got to act quickly and do the right thing, because there's more in the future that we can still do. And
Thank you.
I'll leave it on
Brendan,
that.
thank you so much. I'm gonna ask you that we've reached 3 minutes, but really appreciate your viewpoint and thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you, Brenda.
Eric McDonald.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep, Eric.
We can hear you. We can't see you. Terrific.
Hello.
Hi,
How you
are
doing?
you? Good, thank
Good.
you. Please state
All right,
your
so
name
my
and
name-
address for the record, and then we'd love to hear your comment.
Yes, my name is Eric McDonald. I live at 648 Long Hill Road.
Terrific, go ahead.
Okay, so I would like to thank the Board of Education for the opportunity to offer up my perspective. And I would like to tell you a little bit about myself for understanding and appreciation of the perspective that I hold. My name is Eric. I'm the son of Glenna, who's the daughter of Glenna, daughter of William, son of Elsie Valentine, daughter of Jim Pan, son of Abigail, daughter of Eunice, daughter of Joseph, whose father took the name of Gideon from the missionaries who built a church up on the rocky hills of Litchfield County at the intersection of the Housatonic and 10 Mile River, where lies the Scaticoke Reservation, Scaticoke meaning the confluence of two rivers. My great uncle, Gray Wolf, still resides there with a few souls that remain on this beautiful, almost untouched land. The reason I speculate we're allowed to keep this tract is due to the fact that on the other side of the river, there is a road and then it goes straight into the hills and there's little use for cultivation and agriculture. But most importantly, it's isolated. The Scaticoke are a band of Pequots that amalgamated with other factions of shattered tribes, including the Mohican, Potuck, Weedutuck, Tungus, and Podunk. Our story, unfortunately, is not as positive as the ones as you'll see with the Mashantucket Pequot and the Mohegan tribes. In Guilford, we know of the Chief Uncas, where we get Uncas Punt from, and you might recognize it from Uncasville. Chief of the Mohegans, he also took over for the Pequots after the war and held the land of the Menukatuck, a place where I was blessed to have been raised and lived for the past 35 years. In 2003, I graduated from Guilford High School, and in the 4 years that I spent there, I never felt like the Guilford Indians was a cultural misappropriation or a detriment to my self-esteem. Reflecting back, I can only look back on the contrary with fondness of the symbol that our school has used to honor the peoples who came before. I never saw a person dressed as a clown with a native theme for honoring purposes or experienced a single negative effect of our high school mascot. If you could call it that, I would simply just call it our team name. I never saw a mascot costume. I have no problem with any student of any race calling themselves a Guilford Indian. My tribe was a band of brothers set out for a common goal, and didn't matter where you came from, you were welcome. I can think of no better symbol for an athletic team, and I am honored by the Guilford Indians, a symbol of athletic excellence. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you for sharing. Dylan Douglas, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Dylan, welcome.
Hi, I'm Dylan Douglas from 441 Boston Street. And I'm the parent of 2 students in the Guilford School District. We moved to Guilford from Los Angeles about 5 years ago. After coming to Guilford from such a culturally diverse location as Los Angeles, we were surprised to see a Native American not only being used as a mascot, but also be called an Indian. I've heard members of the community say, not just in this meeting, but elsewhere, that this honors Native Americans, but I cannot say that. What it does is it serves as a figurehead of the underlying racial issues in the school district. My spouse is part Choctaw and learned of her heritage when my oldest child was entering kindergarten in Guilford. He was very fascinated by his Native American ancestry and wanted to learn about the Guilford Native American history. Instead, he was taught that Christopher Columbus was a great explorer who discovered America. He was taught that Native Americans were people who lived long ago without connection to today's society, and he was taught the incorrect story of the first Thanksgiving. In 4th grade, his teacher moderated a class discussion on family heritage and customs. He proudly stated that he was Native American. There were 18 students in that class. Every one but one, 17 students, raised their hands and all said, "I'm Native American too," demonstrating a clear misunderstanding of what being Native American even means. He left the class frustrated. He talked to us. We talked to his teacher. She's a wonderful teacher in many regards. And she said that she had difficulty knowing how to respond to the entire class, basically misunderstanding, and just moved on without addressing it. These students are now heading to Baldwin, possibly still without knowing what it truly means to be Native American. My youngest child just finished kindergarten. Like his older brother, he was taught the greatness of Christopher Columbus. He's been made to color stereotypical cartoon figures of Native Americans, half-dressed and wearing feathers. Guilford Public Schools does not honor Native Americans. Changing the mascot is only a first step down a long road. We need to assure that the district curriculum is inclusive and accurate. We need to ensure that the teachers have the knowledge and the tools to guide students about learning about Native Americans and all peoples of color, gender, religion. We not only can we do better, we must do better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Ella Beasley, please.
My name is Elvis.
Ella, this is Dr. Miles Tracy. Unfortunately, we can't quite hear you.
To the Mohegan Tribe statement. It is
Ella, this is Dr. Miles Tracy. We're not hearing you. I think you may have a bad internet connection.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, go ahead. So sorry.
Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely.
My name is Ella Beasley, an upcoming sophomore at Guilford High School and the co-leader with Julia Shores of the Committee to Change the Mascot. I would like to yield my time to the Mohegan Tribe statement. It is the position of the Mohegan Tribe that the use of the American Indian mascot and American Indian name teams be discontinued. While the stated intent may be to honor American Indians, there is a great potential for less than respectful behaviors to occur in conjunction with these mascots. Additionally, people should not be considered mascots. It is demeaning to be to a stereotype of the people. This should not be allowed to continue. It is a bit ironic that during the formulation of the United States, Native people were forced to assimilate, not allowed to practice their traditional dress or way of life. And yet, cultural appropriation continues to occur with regard to sports teams and their mascots. For the time remaining, I would like to say the statement from the president of the Association of Native Americans at Yale. The Association of Native Americans at Yale urges all schools and organizations to end the use of the Native American mascot and rhetoric. Native American mascots are problematic for many reasons. For one, they create racist iconography and stereotypes about Indigenous people in the United States. They also promote racial slurs such as Indian and Redskins that are deeply violent and offensive. Additionally, these mascots add to the misconception that Native Americans and Indigenous people are from the past only and not a continued thriving group of people and communities. As the Association of Native Americans at Yale, we work to promote our contemporary strength and survival. We denounce the use of the mascots because they work against these notions of resilience, instead undermining our civil rights and basic human dignity. Thank you for your time. I hope the thoughts of both a Native American troop and group swayed you into changing the mascot. Thank you.
Thank you. John Paul Rahman, please, next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Second. All right.
Wonderful. Hello.
Hello, John Paul Ramin, 237 Durham Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I don't envy the decision the school board has to make next week, because no matter what you decide, you'll be accused by some of ignoring tradition and by others of ignoring valid concerns about the appropriate use of a mascot. So I'm here tonight to ask the board that whatever you do, please don't ignore science. I don't mean public opinion poll data about whether or not people, including Native people themselves, are offended by using the word Indian as a mascot. I mean research on the impact that the word Indian as a mascot can have on children. One of the district's key priorities, and rightly so, is providing a safe and supportive learning environment for students. And there is a large body of scientific research that suggests using mascots in these ways can cause harm. That's why the American Psychological Association passed a resolution in 2005, more than 15 years ago, calling for the retirement of mascots, symbols, images, and personalities by schools, colleges, universities, and athletic teams. They found that this practice can have the following detrimental outcomes, and I quote, A, undermine the educational experiences of members of all communities. B, establish an unwelcome and hostile learning environment for all American Indian students. C, have a negative impact on the self-esteem of American Indian children. D, undermine the ability of American Indian nations to portray accurate and respectful images of their culture. And E, may represent a violation of the civil rights of American Indian people. On the other hand, there is little to no scientific research that supports the notion that this practice accomplishes anything positive for a safe and supportive learning environment. We have ample evidence from the current COVID-19 crisis about what can happen when elected officials ignore science in favor of public opinion. I ask the board to please follow the body of evidence, not prevailing public opinion, as they make their determination on how to proceed, and strongly request that the district continue the use of this mascot. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Clarice Yasuhara, please.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Clarice Yasuhara, 399 Norton Town Road. I'm speaking to you as a parent of a current kindergartner, as a person of color in a predominantly white community. And I wanted to just say that it is, in my opinion, it is necessary to change the mascot. As the previous speaker was saying, the American Psychology Association in 2005 made statements against it and how harm it is, because it creates a culture of superiority. And that is something that all minorities will have to deal with consequently, going through the school system. And it's not something I want my children to have to endure. It's not something I want anybody's children to have to endure. We have had many, well, not many, hopefully a handful, but enough racist incidents in our town that we do not need one more thing to call us out on. You know, I think it's time for that depiction of Guilford to be eliminated. And I think we should just go back to being the Rams and stick with that tradition. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Kelvin G.
Kelvin Goodwin, 1126 Boston Post Road. I, as a father of a child that's going to, now you can see me. Sorry, everybody. Haven't had a haircut in about 4 months, so.
No
Kelvin
problem.
Goodwin, 1126 Boston Post Road. Father of a child that's going into Baldwin. It's a difficult time in our society and in America. I'm an immigrant. Wasn't born here, moved here, was adopted. And I understand the pressure of wanting change, and change is always good. Learning from the past is what allows us to move forward. I'm for keeping the mascot, not because of people's opinions or because of what's going on in the world today. But I think that if we teach our children history and teach our children how we have learned from some of the terrible mistakes that our forefathers and our past leaders have made, I think education alone could help quell some of the disturbances in the ideas of what would be perceived as racist. You can find racism in everything. I myself am a civil rights activist, and I believe strongly in everybody's right to opinions, the right to speech, and the right to be an individual. Individualism is one of the pillars of our democracy. And I think when I look back over these last few weeks and I look at the chaos that's going on in our world, I have to think, and I talked to my child about it. You know, today we're talking about mascots. In a year, we may be talking about calling soccer because somebody may find it racist. So should we remove the names of what we consider sports teams, from soccer to basketball to baseball? If somebody committed a horrendous offense in baseball, do we get rid of baseball to become part of a social society that's changing? My fear is that we start with one thing, and in a year or 2 years, something happens, and then we make another change. Not because generally we all believe in that change, but because as a human society and as a society, we want to be on the side of right. But we have to also understand that there are wrongs that we must learn from. Turning a blind eye to racism is wrong, because racism exists. But I hardly find that a mascot that is not really based on race or a demographic, a mascot, we're talking about a mascot of sports that every child participates in if they so choose. I just think that we go down a slippery slope when we start caving to what's going on in the world and applying it to our education system.
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up as we're at 3 minutes. I will encourage people, if we get through earlier, if they have more comments, we could certainly consider that. But I do want to make sure we have time. Thank you so much.
I'll just close on this, that I hope that the town of Guilford and the education system, the Department of Education, takes everybody's views into account when making a change such as this, because everybody's views really do matter. So thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Canchola. I hope I'm pronouncing people's names correctly. Apologies if I am not.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm just going to start my video. Hi, Rebecca Canchola, 25 Sconset Lane. Thank you so much. I'm a newer member of the Guilford community. I am also a member of the Latinx community. My daughter just finished kindergarten in GPS, and she's a child of mixed ethnicity. I have to say, I'm actually quite appalled at the fact that this is actually up for open discussion. I understand the process, and I know that we have to move through the steps. But I do feel really strongly that GPS should be really making a decisive step in changing the mascot, purely because it's the right thing to do. I think that we just cannot perpetuate racism or blatant appropriation of marginalized communities. And the fact that these communities have to handhold discussions about why and how this is hurtful, offensive, and adds zero value to education whatsoever is a bit mind-boggling. You know, Guilford is home to a lot of smart, considerate, and educated people. We just cannot claim ignorance due to sheer sentimentality. You know, the comments I heard on Monday made it seem as though this is a traumatic experience for white people or people non of color. So here we are walking on eggshells, and I just think it's time to be socially responsible and accountable. And I think we need to use this opportunity to teach others, teach our kids. And I also think that while we're at it, we've deprioritized discussions regarding race, and I think we need to put it back to the forefront. I think we need to reprioritize. So to me, this is an inflection point, and I think it's another time to self-reflect. I think we need to look at the diversity of the Board of Education. I think we need to look at the members sitting on the board. I think we need to talk about racial and ethnic composition. And I think we need to ensure that there is representation and diversity and inclusion as well. So I just think we need to continue to challenge ourselves, be the voice of the communities that otherwise have no voice. The good thing is I do have a voice. I'm not afraid to use it, and I'll commit to staying involved. And so I'm happy to provide a perspective here, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak and be heard. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Nathan Powlick.
Can you see me?
We can hear you. Can't yet see you.
I don't know what I start my video. Yeah, there I am. All right.
Terrific. Yes, thank you.
My name is Nathan Pollock, and I live with my family at 106 Russet Drive. I have 2 teenage boys currently in Guilford High School. This issue seems to be caught in a national tension about what it means to be politically correct. Being correct politically means trying hard to not use language or make actions that might insult or upset others. I lived in South Dakota for 12 years, and our children were born there. The job I had allowed me the honor to visit the 9 Native American reservations in that state. And being a guest on the reservations humbled me. I was able to witness the perspective of a wounded, marginalized population. And since then, I have been ultra aware of our mascots. When we moved to Connecticut, the preschool where our children attended sang 10 Little Indians at Thanksgiving time with headdresses included. We asked the preschool to discontinue the tradition of singing those words and it did upset them, but I think they did. Making Native Americans mascots for sports teams is wrong, and so is singing about them as if they're animals. If we consider how it would feel to be a Native American, it might make you feel that people were making fun of you. And so keeping the mascot perpetuates the systemic bias that we continue to struggle with as a nation. The mascots of sports teams such as the Atlanta Braves, Washington Redskins, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Guilford Indians only serves to caricature Native American people, reducing them, in the case of Guilford, to a stalk of feathers. If you're a Native American, you might think you were being teased. Some might say, well, hold on, we're not teasing Indians, we're just celebrating them. They should be proud. You're being too politically correct. What this says to me is I don't care. We've had this name for a long time and it doesn't hurt anyone, so get over it. We're not going to change the name because it has been part of our school history and tradition. Well, being made a mascot does hurt Native American people. Native American people might not say so, but it hurts. Native Americans are what we call marginalized, meaning they have little wealth and power in this country, and that's because the dominant culture is white. What that means is if they did something like, if they did say something like, please stop, likely nothing would change. Native people are well aware of the name and are deeply offended. Until we shift our perspective, nothing's going to change. And that's why I applaud you for bringing this issue forward. I think children can be role models for us. More than any other generation, the children that are growing up now are being taught to be kind and to care, and they actively practice this. If they say or do something that upsets someone, they try to show them the best way to respond in the best way that's respectful and kind. And they say, ooh, you seem upset. I'm sorry. Let me try to understand. I'm curious because I care about you. I might not agree with.
Oh, thank you. Keep going. I just want to let you know, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up so we can stick with 3 minutes. Welcome you back if we get through all our speakers.
Should I be done?
If you have a closing remark, that would be fine.
Well, I was just going to say, one way we can show our kindness is to change our mascot name. It will show our children that we are listening. It will strengthen our community. Visitors coming will be really happy about our strong community. And I think that this is all I need to say at this time.
Thank you. And please, I'm so sorry to cut people off. And again, if we get through all our speakers and people have something to add, we are happy to sit here and listen. We just had no idea how many people would want to speak to us, and we wanted to make sure we gave everyone a chance. Next up, Barbara Hargraves.
Okay, give me just a second.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Barbara Hargraves, and I'm at 284 Landon's Way here in Guilford. I'd like to start out first by thanking the Board of Ed members as well as Dr. Freeman for the presentation on Monday night. I found that panel to be, of the three, I'm going to call them experts, to be extremely helpful. And I just wanted to thank you all for going through this. I think it's time that we made this change. I did not attend Guilford. My kids attend. I have one at Guilford High School and one at Adams. And I feel that it is long overdue that we make this change. I don't know anything. I mean, political correctness is one thing, but I think it's more about just being mindful of what other cultures and people are feeling. And I know that Guilford wants to get into more serious discussions on racism. And I don't know how that would be possible while still holding onto a very inappropriate and an offensive mascot or moniker. So I just wanted to say that I support the Board of Ed and Dr. Freeman, and I hope that this change is made. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, Lauren Dennehy.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Hi, my name's Lauren. I live at 7 Hampton Court in Guilford. We've heard already tonight from many important perspectives, same as the other nights, but I was hoping to offer one more. As the parent of young kids ages 5 and 7, and I'm also a child and family mental health professional. So I thought I'd stay in my lane and reflect some of the values I care about deeply, social emotional wellness in our kids and our community.
Lauren, I'm so sorry. Is there an opportunity for you to be on camera?
Oh, yes. Sorry about that.
No, no problem. Thanks so much. Just,
Okay, thanks.
oh, wonderful. Thank you. So wonderful to see you.
All right. So, you know, I've been thinking a lot about our symbols and our actions and what they represent to our children, our younger children. And I'm worried because if they poke holes in the basic roots of empathy, the things we're talking about in our homes, our schools all the time, we're undermining our own efforts to build critical thinkers and compassionate kids who will ultimately affect positive change in our community. The speaker the other night mentioned the difference between impact and intent, and that resonated with me because it's not very different than the conversation we have nightly in our home since my kids were toddlers. How did you feel when so-and-so did X? You know, how did he feel when you did Y? I worry a lot about the impact on our kids if we don't teach them how to slow down and how to listen carefully to the stories of others, how to validate the perspective of others, how to seek evidence and research, and to be curious about the accounts of those with more lived experience and more historical perspective than we do. How do we help them consider how our actions impact others? I worry we're going to risk growing children who lack the ability to integrate multiple perspectives and that they'll believe themselves to be the center of the universe. In a district so reputable for its high quality schools, I think all parents have a stake in the impact this mascot has on our efforts to make our larger points with our kids. Any of us who live and work with kids know they're really smart. They take us to task on our belief systems, and they have a really strong radar for fairness. It feels important that we maintain our positive authority with our kids, rather than have them poke holes in our thinking and our morals as they grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jeff Jennings.
Am I on now? Video, hang on. Start video. There we go.
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you. We can see you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jeff Jennings. I'm at 159 Mulberry, and I just wanted to add my voice, to thank you for picking this up. I think it's very important. I don't have much additional to add about the merits of the case. I think the speakers on Monday and other speakers here this evening have made that case very, very clearly. I will double down on the last speaker. I'm a pediatrician. In terms of the impact that this has on young children and the messages we're sending, I think that's very, very important, and we should not underestimate that at all. One thing that I haven't heard being said, though, is the divisiveness that this name has within the student body. You have students at the high school who hate this name, who will not wear it on their jerseys and are embarrassed to put it on. Those students, I don't think, are going away. If you don't make this change, 4 years from now, we will still have those students. Maybe there'll even be more of them. If you do make the change for 4 years, there may be some students who miss their old names, but the new students won't care anymore. I think this is going to go away if we make the change. And if we don't, I think the division will stand there. I don't think we should have students who are coming into a high school and are uncomfortable with the team name. I think we're putting them in a terrible position. And that's just something, that's a point I haven't heard being raised here. I also think there's an important curriculum point that should not be lost. We are at a very important moment in our society, and I suspect next year teachers are going to be confronting issues of racism head on. I certainly hope they are. And this issue, if we don't address it, is going to be, but what about, all day long. People are going to keep coming out, but what about our team name? And we should just table that discussion. We should make this change. I think it's long past due. That's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to note that I do not see anyone else in the queue who has asked to speak and be heard. So I am going to take a moment and pause to see if anyone else would like to add their name to the Q&A. Wonderful. I'm seeing a couple names. Joanna Meyer.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Joanna. Could you give us your address, please, for the minutes?
Yes. My address is 88 Dromara Road, where I live with my 2 Guilford students in 1st grade and 4th grade, who are listening in with us tonight. And I just wanted to say, we've only been in Guilford for 4 years, and I remember the day that our children joined Guilford Youth Soccer and how relieved we were that they did not have any Indians on their clothing. It's something we've managed to avoid thus far for the most part, and we've been grateful for. And I just really appreciated the speakers the other night, and especially the comment that this question of the mascot is about so much more than the mascot. And this is something people have been saying all night, but we really can't be having the important conversations that we need to have about educational equity if we are still having a mascot that is just so clearly offensive to people, so clearly that young students understand that it is offensive. So I really am thankful that the board is talking about this decision. I know that it is not a decision everyone will be happy with, but I do agree with the previous speakers that it's long overdue, and I do hope that this change is made in short order. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Ashley Fritz.
Ashley, can you hear us? There she is.
Hi, Ashley. Can you hear us? We cannot hear you. We'll give her a moment to try to reconnect.
Dr. Balstracy, maybe we should move on to the next commenter and we will try to bring Ashley back.
Terrific. Okay, Kara Fickrig.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So thank you to the board and to Dr. Freeman for hosting this tonight and for the panel on Monday. I agree with what many people have said already, so I'm not going to repeat what's already been said. Just to add one more aspect to this is that for those students who don't learn while they're at Guilford how problematic our mascot is, when they go on to more diverse communities, whether it be college or something else after they graduate, and they will likely continue to wear their gear, much of which does say the Indians on it, and that will affect the people whose community they're entering. This happened to me when I graduated in 2011 and went to Yale. Unknowingly wore my Indians gear, and I definitely caused a lot of harm in doing so. Beasley read earlier the statement from the Yale Native American group. There are Native people on that campus who saw what I was wearing, and I'm completely ashamed of what I partook in. And I hope that we do not continue to allow children, students, not kids anymore, to go out of Guilford and poorly represent our town, harm the people that they interact with, and perpetuate the trauma that's already been caused to Indigenous people across the country. I think we need to do what is right, remove our mascot, and prevent any further harm from being done. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we want to try to give Ashley a chance again?
We have Kento Yashiro coming in, and we will try Ashley next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Terrific.
Yasuhara.
I'm sorry.
Here we go.
I'm sorry. Can you see me and hear me?
We can, thank you.
I am Kento Yasuhara on 399 Nortontown Road. I just want to make a quick comment regarding the mascot. I believe that it would be great to be able to change that. I'm a practicing clinical psychologist, and it is, I think, important to realize that it does breed stereotypes, regardless of what the stereotype is, good or bad. I don't think it's great to have that, and to be able to, or have our children have to go through that. And I know that it's going to be important for the future, that for kids that are going into the school system, to recognize that these are important social and social justice issues that we have to think about. And even if this is tradition, or we've had it, or I'm not offended by it, I think it's important to recognize that the people who do care about this, that may be stereotyped by this, are going to be offended. And I think it's important to consider those and not look at it from a myopic view of just ourselves. So I just want to thank the board for giving me the time to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ashley Fritz. Can we give that a try again?
Video. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. We can hear you.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Ashley Fritz of 1310 Boston Post Road. I have been a resident of Guilford for 33 years. My parents were residents of Guilford. My grandmother had the Miss Melissa Jones when it was just a 2-room schoolhouse in North Guilford. I am also white, Black, and I'm Iroquois, Apache, and Mohawk Indian. I take no offense whatsoever to our mascot being an Indian. And as a matter of fact, the entire night, all I have heard are non-minorities talking about how they are embarrassed to be an Indian. I find that offensive. My daughter is Brianna Sesas. She's on the high school wrestling team and the high school football team. She's first generation Ecuadorian, and she is also Native American. My daughter is appalled at the thought that somebody thinks that her culture is embarrassing. Now, do I agree that the term Indian is appropriate? No. Do I agree that our mascot should be changed? No. I actually think, because our high school doesn't have a name, that we should move to make the high school Menakatuck High. Keep our Indian and bring in the tradition of the Menakatuck people. There is no mention in the school books at all, anything about our local history. And if somebody wants to argue, ask them who Shem is. I guarantee you, the majority of the people of Guilford have no idea who Shem is. Shem is a Black slave that is buried up in North Guilford. There is no mention of them anywhere. Maybe in the archives in the library. But as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to take away the Guilford Indians, you're going to take away any connection that Guilford has with Native American culture, including possibly renaming Sachem's Head. It's absurd. It's honestly absurd. You are whitewashing the town. There is no ethnic diversity. This is already a very white community. It just blows my mind to think that. And did anybody get the opinions of the Native Americans in the school? Does anybody know any of them? I'm one, my daughter is one. Has anyone gotten anyone's opinion? And I mean somebody in Guilford, a Native American from Guilford, not a Native American from Maine, not one from the West Coast, somebody that it's truly going to be affecting. Because I would be very proud to be a Monocotuck Indian, very proud. And if I was down south, I would be very proud to wear the Apache or the Iroquois.
Thank you,
But
Ashley.
that's all.
Please, no, please finish up. I don't want to interrupt. I just want to let you know that you're getting your time. So if you have a final comment, I want to give you the opportunity.
All I think is that hiding the issue is not going to help the issue. Not talking about something is not going to help it. Keep the Indian and teach your kids, teach your children. It begins at home. Then bring it to the teachers and force the teachers to teach it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Julie Fitzpatrick. Hi, Julie.
Can you see me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for hosting this. This is Julie Fitzpatrick from 120 Lovers Lane. It's really great to hear your perspectives. And I wrote a poem about this last fall. I'm just going to share it here. It's called "A Rose by Any Other Name Would Smell as Sweet." A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. That's true, I think. A rose would be as gorgeous and potent in its blossoming beauty if it were not a rose, if it were a dahlia or a daisy, an iris or a dandelion. But we become attached to names, don't we? I sure do. This is me, a name says. And sometimes we hold that name claim with a tight fist, white knuckles, jaws locked, nails digging into our skin, gripping it, grasping at it. Don't let it get away. Don't let it slip away. Don't let it leave us, leave me without what? Ourselves, perhaps, as we know ourselves to be. To change a name is to tear at something, to test its connective tissue, to toss what is out the window and see what will be. To change a name is to shed an old skin and inhabit another, to trust that something will remain in place, but will it? Will it? I need a guarantee to know for certain. Will the essence of the thing still be there? It's to say goodbye to what fits, even if uncomfortably now, even if it's itchy, awkward, not quite right. It's to dare to wear an altogether different garment, one that has a fresh sheen, resonance, texture. How do you call yourself? How do you call others? When they say they'd like to be called her instead of him and Mrs. instead of Miss, can you hear it? Can you stifle a snicker and sense the beating heart beneath, the one that's asking to be known in a new light, seen in a different way? Am I? Widen, break, crack, split open, make room, take a breath. Let in the possibility that a name no longer fits in the context of who we, they are now, in our, their complexities, colors, histories, selves, what we know about the world and each other, what we know about our land and who was here before us, what we know about the power of language, inclusive versus not, versus you're out, versus mock. Students say their mascot is controversial and want to call themselves something that speaks more to who they are now. The ones who walk out on the field with that jersey on their backs, the ones who shirk from the sound of their mascot, who can't dress up like it, be seen as it, who prefer instead a G with feathers, who avoid the name, I'm told. We avoid it, avoid who we are. They want to call themselves something else, as looked at through the broadest, most human lens, but the sun hit that lens with a force that began a fire, and it spread on the web with a vengeance. Both sides flaring, both sides flaming, ire, anger, ferocity. How could you? How dare you? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? Insult, curse, teeth, hiss, finger, bite, growl, spit. We need to, I need to, we need to. I need to exhale, unpack this a little, look around, step back. What if we let in the flickering possibility that change, like the fallen leaves outside on this gray, soppy, chilly day, know so well, is part of what makes our lives as rich and gorgeous as they are. That change is a chance to try something else, explore it, wear it, watch it move and swagger and sway. Try on a different lens through which to look at ourselves, at one another, at them. Students who study and practice and sing and type and text and talk and tweet and walk the halls and flirt and cover their zits and play with their hair and pass notes and dream about a future in labs and offices and in space and in classrooms and in concert halls and on fields and in stadiums and on highways and in hospitals and in the air. Students who fall into shame puddles and feel buoyed by surprise recognition and get up at the crack of dawn to wait for the bus in the blue glow of their phone since it's so dark out and they're seeking connection, any connection, and it's there on their little smart devices. They start using their remarkable brains so early and they're too cool to dress warmly, so they shiver in their t-shirts and hug and smile and pout and carry their books and try not to fall asleep in class and try at life with all their might, which isn't easy at any age, but holy moly, high school, God bless them. And they do it every day, over and over, try and root for each other and hopefully themselves. And now they're asking to root for each other and hopefully themselves in a new vernacular, one that represents them more accurately who they are today. Let us listen, see if we're game to change our speech, to hear them, to stifle our snickers, our flickers of furious flames, our vicious egos, and hear the requests, the beating hearts beneath. Yes, we have our Indians' glory days, our Indians' triumphs, our favorite Indians' cheers, memories, moments. It hurts to think we have to let those go, change those somehow, hide those away. Those are us, those are key, those stand for our lives, for goodness sakes. How can we trample them, discard them, chuck them away? But wait, we won't, we're not, they're right there. We're right here. We can preserve those cheers, memories, moments. We can hold them close and also open a window on a new possibility. Exhale. I'm almost done, Katie, I promise. A rose by their name would smell as sweet, and that's true, I think. What if we opened our fists, let our knuckles relax and our jaws unclench? What if we tried, just tried on, just tried a new one? What will we be then? Can you, can I, can we hear the excitement, the opportunity, the magic in that? Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Julie, thank you so much. Hi again. I see no one else in the queue, so I do want to invite anyone who might like to speak. Tim Vale.
Hello, everybody. I assume you can hear me?
Tim, we can. We can't see you yet.
Yeah, they didn't ask me yet to start
There
my
we go.
video.
Wonderful.
Here
No,
it goes.
you're wonderful. I think there's a little bit of lag for us, so thank you for your patience.
Okay, awesome. First off, I think this has been very healthy to just hear everybody, hear everyone's opinion. But I will say, I think we all have to put a little bit more weight to the voices of the few of the people tonight that actually are American Indian, Indigenous people. I think their opinions should carry more weight than the rest of us when it comes to, how offended we are by a name. So I just want to say, Kelvin, Ashley, those are the two people tonight that I heard that I just said, wow, they expressed it, everything that I would like to say. And I just feel strongly getting rid of the name, especially getting rid of the name right now, when we're seeing all these statues toppling and people trying to erase history. History happened. A lot of bad things happened. A lot of things that we wouldn't let happen today have happened. But getting rid of names, getting rid of statues, I don't think is the right way to solve a problem. I think we're burying your head in the sand. I think nothing negative when I hear the word Indian. And if there was a better word, I would suggest that. When I was in college, my college football team was called the Chiefs. And I was always very proud of that name. I never certainly did anything to disrespect the name or the uniform. I never saw a teammate do that. And I never heard the fans being disrespectful either. To me, it was something I was proud of. I was not an Indian, but I was very proud of the name. We went through this exact thing at my college, my senior year. A small group of people took offense to the name. They were not even American Indians. They took offense, they made a stink, and without due process, they got rid of the name. And they put in an article in the newspaper asking people for suggestions. And a third grader came up with a name that replaced Chiefs. It was a name that really had no meaning. It was very, very bland and impartial, probably wouldn't offend anybody. But I think we can use that name, we can stick with that name and still be super respectful of the Indians. I think we can change what we teach in our schools. I know one parent was very strong about, what we have taught, what we haven't taught. Let's keep the name. Let's change our curriculum. Let's get super focused on being very proud of that name and representing that name very well. I think I know when I look at the jerseys and I see the headdress and the feathers and the name Indian, I always say to myself, of course, having been through it, I'm proud that Guilford is sticking with this. Guilford is not a racist town. There's racism everywhere, certainly, but Guilford is a very proud town. We treat people well. We treat people well at sporting events, the best I've probably ever seen. And I've been to a lot of sporting events.
Tim, I'm going to ask you to wrap up a little bit. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up with, I feel very strongly we should keep the name. It sounds like I'm in the minority, but in that opinion, but 2 out of the 3 people on this call that were either American Indian or their spouses were American Indian took no offense to the name at all while they were at high school or now. And I think we should take that into account. And if we're going to change the name, we at least need to have a vote. It can't be the majority of people that came to this meeting and spoke. At least let everyone's voice be heard.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Next up, Ruth Montgomery, please. Hi, Ruth.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you. We can, thank you.
Thank you. Ruth Montgomery, I'm at 65 Farmview Drive. And I really appreciate you making time for this. And I've really learned a lot from everyone that I've heard speak. I appreciate everything that I've heard everyone say. I don't have a whole lot to add. But I just want to add, I did a little research, and the term mascot actually comes from the French. It means a talisman or lucky charm. And if you do a Google search for mascot, and like an image search, you will find pictures of like talking baseballs and lions and inanimate objects. And it just doesn't feel great to have people, a people group, especially a proud culture represented among that. I know that the moral argument has come up time and time again, and I don't disagree with that at all. But I think, a more important piece is the fact that we are sitting here at a point in history when we have to talk to our children and we have to say, here's what we did, here's how we moved forward. It's not about changing history, erasing what has happened, but looking at where we've come from. And, we're sitting at this fork in the road and we have to say, well, here's where we're going from here. And my daughter's just finished kindergarten. She's going into 1st grade. and I have a son who will be going to kindergarten soon. And these are conversations that we're having all the time. And, you know, Guilford is a really white town. We can't ignore that. And there's probably a lot of things that we could do differently in our school systems and in our homes and in the community. But this is a really tangible one. This is one that's going to say a lot of things about our community for a long time. This is the kind of thing that makes the newspapers. That's not a reason to change it, but it's not a reason to change it, you know? And I think it's important to consider, you know, what statement are we making for our children? What statement are we making for our community? What statement are we making for generations to come? You know, I've heard people talk about what is it like when they leave Guilford and they go out into the larger community, and they have to defend that to their peers, to the people around them. And it's not about being politically correct, but it is about being respectful of others and respectful of culture.
Thank you so much. All right.
Absolutely. And thank you very much.
All right. Next, Sharon Beasley, please.
Hi. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
how are you?
Thank you. I'll keep it sweet and short. I agree with changing the mascot. My name is Sharon Beasley. I live at 96 Church Street, and thank you for your time. Bye.
Bye. Are there others who would like to speak?
I see a Demi Chen who will need to give her address.
Hi, Board of Education. This is Demi from 424 Schoolside Lane. I also agree with changing the mascot. The Board of Education has already invited wonderful Native American expert panelists who have already weighed in that the mascot is problematic. Just because some individuals aren't personally offended doesn't mean that the mascot isn't offensive overall to others. When we change the mascot, I'm sure that Guilford will commit to making sure it doesn't end there. We can commit to finding better ways to better reflect our Guilford history in ways that are only interpreted as unanimously positive celebrations. We need to find undeniably inoffensive ways to commemorate our history. Additionally, I thank the Board of Education because I know you're working on updating our curriculum for Guilford Public Schools so students can be more educated on Guilford history. And I think this mascot change is simply an opportunity for more conversations on race and equality. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Pollock. Again, I hope I am saying people's names correctly.
Don't have to say anything.
Hi, Karen.
How are you? I just wanted to say one quick thing. I live at 106 Russet also. My husband just spoke, and we did live in South Dakota for a long time. And I felt like I learned a lot out in that area about the Native Americans in South Dakota. However, I guess I did not go to the discussion on Monday, and I wish that we had. I do know there are I was assuming that the Native Americans in Guilford were part of this whole entire discussion. So they should be, and it doesn't mean that I don't agree with changing the name, but I think that they need to be part of the discussion. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I am looking and don't see anyone else in the queue. Oh, wait, sorry. Christine Ladalade, I'm quite sure I didn't say your name correctly. I'm so very sorry.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, and please say your name so that it gets said correctly. Christine, can you hear us?
So Christine Latayad, 6
Christine, unfortunately, you're breaking up as you speak. Do you have two audios on?
Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, we can't.
Can you guys hear me?
I'm wondering if you could turn one of your audios off.
No, I don't.
Christine, can you hear us now? I think so. Probably we'll go back to Christine. Is that a good?
We're going to move on to Adina and we'll try to bring Christine back.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for your patience in this remote world. This is a little bit challenging.
I'm sorry, it's actually not Adina, but Michael
Hi, Michael. How are you?
on computer. That is my wife's name. I just wanted to make the point that, first of all, I'm absolutely in favor of making the change. I'd like to move this away from the question of who is or is not offended and has been offended historically, but it's about how we want to teach our children going forward. And it's simply an obstacle to teaching them, not an incentive for them to learn. Mascots and statues and such are not the way to teach history. Teaching American history in a real way, which engages with, the people who have been here for thousands of years, is the way to do that. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
If Christine tries turning off her video, it might improve the audio connection.
Okay.
Kevin, you can do that.
Hi, Christine.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Unfortunately, we're having trouble hearing you still. Christine?
Is that any better?
I wish it was, and it's not.
Christine, you can send an email comment to us. I'm sorry that we can't hear you.
Okay, I will. We'll do.
All right, so sorry. Julia Schroers?
Hi.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, I'm Julia Schroers. I live at 401 Three Corners Road, and I'm a rising sophomore at Guilford High School. You heard earlier from my committee head, Ella Beasley. We've been working together throughout the year, and I want to talk about something that hasn't been talked a ton about today, but I heard a lot during the panelist speakers earlier this week, which is I've spent a lot of my time when school was in session interacting with kids on all sides of the spectrum of opinions. And I encountered just a great deal of misunderstandings about race and the role that race has in Guilford and the role that Native Americans have in Guilford. And I think that what I want to talk about is that the mascot isn't just directly affecting our Native American students, but it affects the students of color in our school as a whole. And that's something that's brought up in the panelist meeting earlier, was what kind of precedent a mascot sets, not just for the really younger kids, but what kind of community it fosters as a whole. And I think that this mascot is a foundational part of what I've come to see as a systematic error in the education system of Guilford. And something that I want to clarify is it's certainly not the only error that we have. And we've heard a lot about education and the way that Native American history is treated in our curriculum. But I think that you can't seriously have a conversation about any of those things without bringing up the mascot. And we've talked about that in school, is the way that race is treated in our school is a little bit of a joke, and it's become myself, a 15-year-old, it's become my responsibility to be the resource for my peers about race. They can't go to their teachers because the entire idea is a little bit of a joke. And I think that the curriculum requires changing and editing, and the mascot is a really cement first step. It shouldn't be the only step. And that's been made very clear by all of the people that have been talking. But as someone that has, as a Jewish student in the school, I've come to understand the way that my peers interact with other cultures isn't the way that they should be. As someone that's been involved and implicated with cultural competence committees and various incidents throughout the school year, I've come to understand that Guilford has a lot of work to do, and I think that the mascot sets a precedent for change. And that's what I see is that's what it's really about, is how we can drive our community forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm looking at the queue and I don't see anyone else in the queue at the moment. So I want to pause and open it up to anyone else. Before I invite people to come back, is there anyone who has not yet spoken tonight that would like to address the board?
Dr. Balistraci, if I may, I thought I just might note a number of times I've heard speakers tonight refer to Monday night's meeting and the speakers that joined us at Monday night's meeting. I'd like to remind the community that that meeting is archived on our website. If you did not get to see the conversation Monday night, and if you are curious after references that have been made here this evening, I would encourage you to visit our school website. You can look for the archived Board of Education meetings and you can watch that conversation.
Wonderful. It looks like
Ms.
Christine.
Latayad's trying to.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. It looks like Christine is going to try again. We welcome Christine here.
Can anyone hear me now?
Christine, we can hear you. Yes, thank you.
Wonderful, finally. So Christine Latayad, 6 Polebridge Lane. I have 3 children in Guilford Public Schools, 2 at the high school, and 1 at Calvin Lee. First, I just want to say I appreciate the Board of Ed for this forum. And next, a lot has been said tonight. I just wanted to say, like Barbara Hargrave, hope I said that right, Barbara, that if we are to have the much needed conversations around racial justice and inequities, we will be in a much less credible position if we are to hold on to the Indian as our mascot. I am not of Native American descent, so I cannot speak as others did from that perspective. However, I have read, I don't want to say extensively, but quite a bit recently. And we did hear from our panelists this past Monday. And I see no value in using a rich culture or a people as a mascot. And I would just like to state my official position as a Guilford resident, and that I am for changing the Indian mascot. And thank you for the time and for your patience with me, my electronically
Wonderful that we
challenged
got
home.
to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who has not had a chance to speak to us tonight that would like to speak? I'm just going to pause for a second to give anyone the opportunity to get in the Q&A queue if they are interested. All right, I'm not seeing anyone. Because I was in the unfortunate position of cutting a few people off here tonight, which is not something I ever want to do if I don't have to. And please understand that we did it in order to make sure everyone got heard. If there is someone who, for whom I cut off or who wanted to say something else to us, I certainly will welcome you back. I am going to ask you again to stick to 3 minutes just to make sure. I do see that Ashley Fritz has asked to speak again. Ashley, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So just to reiterate what I have already said and what I have said in the past on multiple Guilford forums, certain people do not need permission to speak for themselves. And with the Black Lives Matter movement and the whole name change of the school, I understand that people want to be politically correct and people want to make sure that all nations and genders and everything are accepted for who they are. But you need to stop and listen to the people that it would offend the most. Not Sally that is from Europe. Somebody who is going to be affected by this. My daughter is in the high school. There has never been an issue with being a Native American. There has never been an issue with being an Indian when I was in school. Being an Indian is a very proud belief. Very proud. We are very proud people. And the fact that you are taking this away, like I said, don't really care for the name Indian. Mascot is fine. It's just a G with feathers on it. But to say that you are embarrassed to represent Indians is a slap in the face, a huge slap in the face. Not only do we have to go through genocide, but now we embarrass you. And because you don't want to make a stance against the entire nation of people who are also offended and embarrassed, the few of us that are in the town that would like to keep it, we have no say. And that's not right. The people that should be arrowheading this are the people that it should be affecting directly. And to say that, you know, being an Indian is going to affect your learning abilities, Guilford is second in our county. We are 21st in our state, and we are 1,096th out of 24,000 in the nation. So you need to take into consideration how many of these schools that have the Indian mascot maybe are inner city schools. Maybe they're low funded schools. Just because they have the mascot does not mean that their education is affected because of their mascot. And if being an Indian holds no reference, then why are there bumblebees? Why are we bulldogs? If we're going to get offended over everything, then anyone over 6'3" should be offended at the New York Giants. Anyone born in New England should be offended at the New England Patriots. It is not offensive unless you make it offensive. And people are just making this a bigger issue than what it needs to be. And of the panel that did speak, only one of them was Native American. The rest, one of them was an English or Irish history teacher. And the gentleman that spoke had one bad experience at his Ivy League football game. Bunch of college kids drinking, screwing around at a college football game. That doesn't happen in Guilford. That usually doesn't happen anywhere. And when you see it depicted on TV, they always go after the drunkest, most obnoxious people at a football game. That's a fact. It's an absolute fact. So don't say that my heritage is offensive, because many of us do not think it is offensive. Now, if a local elder wants to tell me that it is offensive, that is my elder. I will trust what they say. But, you know, the top 1% of America telling me that my ethnicity is offensive and we need to change it and giving me no alternative, I find that offensive. That is offensive. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like Kelvin would like to speak again, please.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
I hate when my students say, can you hear me? So, you know, Ashley touched on an important topic, I think. And I appreciate everybody's opinions, everybody's views. But if we step back and really think about what is a mascot? The first mascot came about in 1867. It was from a French composer. It was designed to bring charm and good luck to a sporting event. That's what a mascot is. So when you look at football teams, baseball teams, it's not a history lesson. It's a symbol for that people to cheer and root for their best, for the team that they want to win. The mascot was never designed and has never been in the history from 1867, has never been associated with racism. You know, there was another gentleman on here that talked about, you know, that you can find racism everywhere. That's very true. If you look hard enough, you can find racism in just about everything. Why? Why is that? Because people like to get their news from Facebook and social media accounts and people who don't do enough research. I can guarantee you that the majority of people in the town of Guilford didn't know that mascots came from the 1800s. And that it wasn't associated with a demographic. It wasn't associated with indigenous people. It was associated with the French composer that created this symbol for humor, for laughter, for sporting events. That's where it comes from. You know, if you sit back and also think about it, could you ever imagine that maple syrup would become racist in 2020? That we must remove the emblem from Land O'Lakes butter because somebody found it racist. I mean, I'm a minority, but what's funny about the word minority is in America, Hispanics are the majority and Caucasian people are a minority. If you look at the demographics across the 50 states, so the word minority in of itself is ironic because a lot of people like to talk about minorities, but the people that they're considered to be minorities aren't minorities, they're the majorities. So when we get into this political culture of political correctness, what value does that give to an education system? The education system is there to teach kids. The education system is there to educate children, to go out into the world, to learn and to be better, to do better than the previous generation. As parents, it is our responsibility to teach our kids right from wrong. It's the educator's responsibility to teach kids to learn new trades. You know, they've done away with a lot of different types of education in schools these days. I don't think they have shop or anything like that. When I was in school, I spent my entire life in the Army defending the very rights that are being plateaued across America. You know, the very right that you can call something racist is the very right that I fought in 2 wars to defend. And when I hear that people think that maple syrup and mascots and butter and cheese and cereal is somehow racist, then I think that people need to understand the history behind racism, because that ideology doesn't equate to racism.
Thank you, Kelvin. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
It looks like there's someone else who wants to speak. Is that Eric McDonald?
Gordon Chen, I see as a new commenter. I don't believe we've heard from Gordon yet.
No, we haven't. Thank you. That just popped up. Gordon, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Hi,
can you hear me?
welcome. Yeah, we can. Thank you.
So, I'm in, well, next year I'm going into 9th grade at the high school. And I would just like to say that I completely agree with Kelvin and Ashley, the speakers that were before me.
I have never thought of Guilford or the public school system as being racist towards Indians with the mascot. I really think that it is, I take pride in wearing that jersey. I take pride in representing for my school or the system, the school system, like history. I don't think that the public school system should just be burying our history and changing whatever doesn't look right. That's not what it's for. Instead, what a school system is for is to educate people about what has happened. And what has happened is that this country has made some mistakes, but that's not saying that we should bury it. It's not saying that we should forget it. And instead of being proud of a certain indigenous culture, instead we should just, that we should forget it, that we should hide it away. I just don't think that that's right. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Clarissa, you're up next.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you. Sorry, I'm actually just joining, so I'm joining a little bit late. But I just wanted to share, I am a resident of Guilford and I grew up here in the town of Guilford, and I attended the public school system a while ago. I personally identify as a white person that went through the school system, and I'm of settler heritage. So my ancestors actually were some of the first 7 colonists here on this land. And I think that it's very important in these conversations to recognize that the mascot is racist. And this is because Indigenous populations do say that tokenistic expressions of Indigenous people are harmful. They do harm to Indigenous communities. And I understand the comments that have been made about not wanting to erase that history and wanting to have pride about that. But the thing is that it is not our place as people that don't identify as Indigenous to have that pride, because this is a culture that has undergone it has tremendous resiliency and is still present, but we also need to recognize the pain in the history that has been imposed here. Some of the first reservations were here right on this land. And so I don't think at all that we should erase that history. I think we should actually start to teach that history in these schools so that we can move towards greater healing. So I think that we need to look to Indigenous people and understand that our actions of having a mascot, a tokenistic mascot, is racist, and that is also not our place to debate as people that are not Indigenous. That is not actually something that we have any ability to weigh in on. That is something that we need to listen and acknowledge that that is racist. We need to move forward, and we need to better understand the history of the land here and among all the people here. And the education system will have a huge role to play in that, in those reconciliation that needs to happen, and to bring in Indigenous leaders, pay them to come in and to educate the school would be wonderful moving forward. To be able to have that kind of education in the schools is something that I wish I really would have been able to receive then. And it's something that I would like to see moving forward. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I just see one more person. It sounds like Eric would like to speak again.
Hello, you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you again for letting me speak, and I want to thank everyone that has given their opinion so far that can help us do better to serve our community. I would like to also offer up myself if anyone needs a hand in helping with the education going forward. Also would like to state for anybody who hasn't seen what I spoke before, that I am for keeping the native symbol of our athletic teams. And I always, when I was in school, whenever I got anything that had the Indian symbol on it, like this that I got from my mother, I always loved to receive anything like that. And so I would like to express that. And thank you very much.
Thank you. My apologies, everyone. I'm trying to make sure I've got the Q&A. We have a new speaker, Polly.
Sorry, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Let's just, sorry, a little glitchy. Polly Reader at 280 Sage Hollow, a little glitchy because that's just as of a week ago, if that. I just wanted to make some comments in terms of that I really commend the Board of Ed and Administration for finally stepping forward to take this action. The Board of Ed members fulfill an elected community leadership role, and it's really quite a leadership role in our community. So just to step forward now is fantastic. And also being able to see that there's, engaging in a larger process to try to increase awareness and really allow input and engage more community members in it. I really appreciated Monday's panel of experts. But, it really says something about Guilford that we're still talking about this, and this is, the mascot is the Indian, and it's not positive. And I think it's just a shame that it wasn't dealt with years and years ago. And that, honestly, some people seeing this in headlines and news and whatnot around the state or elsewhere will assume it's just a quick fix in light of the national and beyond civil and human rights movement that's now sweeping across. And I just really would like it to not be a quick fix because it can't be. I thought it was pretty enlightening, and that one of the experts on Monday shared that, there actually is research out there that students in other minority groups, students of other colors who are not Caucasian, who attend schools that have racist mascots such as this, do experience increased amounts of bigoted various types experiences. So, and then, let alone also the very appalling blackface incident here in our town last year. So clearly, it's better later than never. I would just encourage and urge the board, and I know, of course, funding would be an issue and whatnot, possibly, but to as much as we can do a very deep and very broad process in terms of, if the feathers have no accompaniment to the new mascot, and let's just wipe the feathers off of all of the gear and the garb and whatnot, and really, turn this over quickly to a new leaf. And
Thank you. Oh, I'm
okay,
just going to ask you to wrap up if you can. Thank you.
okay, sorry, thank you. It's such to be talking without, any back and forth. Early Guilford Day is incredibly impressive. And with the 4th grade focusing on, my impression was state history, I would hope that more would be built into that very, I think, longstanding tradition event and to their curriculum over the year, let alone many other places. But I would urge the board to use their leadership role and partner with other community leaders within the town's elected other officials, the Human Rights Commission, the religious, athletic, etc., and build together a group that can continue to collaborate on carrying this forward, because it is much deeper and much broader than just a mascot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Again, I'm going to be calling on people who haven't spoken yet. Vasi Sperry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh. We can.
All right, I'll start my video. I just want to say I agree with Ashley, who is a Native American, and the gentleman that spoke earlier that we should keep this mascot. I think it's actually a privilege and an honor to be a Guilford Indian. My kids have gone through the whole school system. I'll have a senior in high school. And I have never, ever seen anybody wearing a headdress or anything that would be inappropriate. And I really feel that taking away the Guilford Indian is a way of erasing history. I think, we really should consider the local Native Indians and their perspective, because there's the only ones that really would be offended. If anything, I think we should all be proud. And the other thing is, we can't make everybody happy. And what happens next? You get people that, aren't Christian and they want us to remove the crosses from the churches. I mean, this is our history. The Native Americans have a strong history here, and I don't think we should be erasing their history. If anything, we should be teaching more about them in the school system and really having a better understanding. I think education starts at home. And anybody that has any negative association with the Native Americans, that needs to change. Our glass should be half full and be positive and stop all the negativity. Because we could be prejudiced about everything. You're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too pretty, you're too ugly. It's got to stop. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Amanda?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
All right, beautiful. So I'm going on a whim here. I don't have anything written down, but I want to make one thing clear to everybody who is against the idea of changing the mascot, or who is for changing the mascot. I'm sorry. This is our history. We live in Connecticut. If you want to do some research, Connecticut means long tidal river. If we are to change the mascot for Guilford, why don't we change the name of the Housatonic River and the Quinnipiac River, and every other Connecticut name that has anything to do with the people that walked the earth before we were here. And this is coming from a minority. I'm a second generation American, and I think that we need to educate our youth as to why they are called the Indians and respect the Native American culture by keeping it. That's all I have to say. I think that it's a real shame. The whole situation is very, very sad. And I think that removing the name would be an absolute injustice to what it's there for in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben Robinson?
Hello, good evening.
Hi, how are you? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just speak very briefly. I don't really have anything to add. I'm obviously I'm for changing the mascot. I live at 79 Elm Street in Guilford. I have a son, Melissa Jones. I am a 1994 graduate of Guilford High School. Trying to change the name is part of our tradition as well. In 1993, we attempted to change the name. We voted on it. I can't remember the exact particulars, but it didn't pass. Obviously, it was. I'm not sure if this was. I don't think it was part of the Board of Ed, but the students we composed a vote, and it was voted on by the student body. Again, I don't have all the particulars. It's been a long time. I think also we were mostly talking about things like Shep versus O'Neill back then. I do want to say that back then we did wear headdresses. We did the tomahawk chop. We put face paint on. I'm not sure that's done now, and I'm not sure that's been done in the last 10 years. And I'm sure if it was done tomorrow, it would raise some eyebrows. So I would just encourage everyone to think about that, and please, echoing everyone's recommendation to watch the video from Monday. It's really incredible. I learned a lot from it. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Joan Dudley? Joan, can you hear us? Joan, we can't hear you. We may need to go someone else and then welcome Joan back.
Dylan Douglas wanted to speak again.
Okay.
Hello again. 441 Boston Street, obviously again. A few of the speakers have said we're changing or trying to change the name because we find Native Americans offensive themselves. That's obviously not the case. It is the use of Native Americans, the use of a race as a mascot that we are attempting to do away with. We would not have the Guilford Italians. We would not have the Guilford Canadians. We would not have the Guilford Negroes. We would not, and I use the term Negro specifically, not African Americans, not Black, but Negro, because Indian is not calling a Native American by the correct term. We are trying to do away with that. To honor Native Americans, we need to adjust the curriculum. We need to bring it to the forefront. We need to honor them correctly. If that requires us devoting a straight week to it, a town day, obviously the Board of Education can't control that. This is the way to honor the heritage, to honor the history, Doing away with a mascot is not erasing history. It is erasing the wrong way to try to honor someone. We need to do it correctly. In closing, like I said, I came from Los Angeles. I've spoken to many of my friends back in Los Angeles who are full Native American, who are partial Native American, who have come from Mexico. Not a single person who I've ever spoken to has ever said, oh yeah, a mascot would be fine. The Guilford Hispanics or something like that. A race is not a mascot. Whether or not it's to be noble or not, it will be vilified by people, and it sends the wrong message to our children and to the town. Let's do this the right way. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to try Joan Dudley again, Dr.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's try Joan again, please.
She said she had a problem with her mic. We're going to try her once again.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, Joan?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So, I just wanted to say that I was a student, let's see, of Guilford High School from 1997 to 2000. And when I was a freshman, we had a Thanksgiving football game, as we still do. But part of our halftime show was our Indian mascot dragging out a lynching post and hanging and dismembering a stuffed tiger with a hatchet. I will say hatchet because it was a hatchet and not a tomahawk. So I'm not quite sure what that is honoring when we think about honoring our Native American or Indigenous people from the area. I have since married into a very old family, and our children are 14th generation. And I would like them to learn the actual history of this town, how it was purchased, topography, land use, peoples on the land. I don't want them to get to the point in school where they're seeing that a human being can become a caricature or a farce. That is all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Kelly.
Hi, I'm here. Can you see me?
Not yet.
Okay, there we go. Start my video. Hi, thank you for having me. And thank you so much for having this forum tonight. I've learned a lot. I think it's really important to hear all of these points of view. I actually have learned a lot just from this conversation in terms of the names of some of the tribes and Indigenous people that lived here. And I think the fact that this conversation has allowed me to learn that means that this is an important conversation. Just to address some of the points, I don't think anyone is trying to erase this history of the Indigenous people in this area. I think we're trying to find a better way to celebrate it, a more dignified way to celebrate it, a more appropriate way to celebrate it. Let's put a memorial or a tribute on the town green. Let's name a big, beautiful parcel of land after an appropriate person or tribe. Let's think about better ways to incorporate it into our curriculum so that my children who are in the school system hear those names of those people and those tribes and not the word Indian, which is reducing an entire culture of people down to a single word, a single image, a single stereotype. That's not that culture. That's not a way to honor them. I just think it shows a real lack of imagination to think that putting the word Indian on a gym floor or on the back of a jersey is a way to honor those people. I don't think that's honoring them. I think it's stereotyping them. I'm not embarrassed to know that there is the beautiful and proud heritage of these these Native American people in this area, I don't find that embarrassing. I think it's something to be celebrated and honored in a more dignified and beautiful way than reducing it to the name on a gym floor. So I do really hope that we can move this conversation forward towards education in our town for our students to learn the real history and not the stereotypes that a single word can evoke. So thank you for this time.
Thank you. Kevin Knowlton, please.
Can you hear me?
We can, Kevin.
Okay. Hi. I moved to Guilford from North Haven, which is another town with another mascot that is the Indians. Personally, I grew up being and proud to call myself a North Haven Indian and now a Guilford Indian. I do realize that there is stigma to it. However, my thing is, if we do change it, I know there's the Guilford G with the 3 tail feathers that are green. My suggestion would be not to completely rebrand and do away with all that, but go to something like maybe Guilford Hawks, something where you can still keep all the branding and image you have and keep it somewhat of the lineage there. Granted, I do realize my family came over in the 1630s from England. So along with one of the earlier speakers, I agree that there are a lot of atrocities that have happened, but I also have had plenty of Native American friends who were proud to be on a team called the Indians because it made them proud of who they were. That is really just my input. I know my child and children will be part Native American, and I kind of want them to know all of their heritage and understand it. But I do understand where it can be offensive to some, and I do think we need to educate and bring it back into the curriculum. And like I said, I just think if we do change the idea and the mascot, not to completely go away from the entire emblem that they have right now and kind of use it, what we have, and be more creative with that. That's all.
All right, thank you, Kevin. I think I don't see any more speakers. I did pass someone who was a repeat speaker, so let me just give them one more chance. Oh, I'm sorry. New speaker, Emily Breeze.
Hi, sorry, can everyone hear me and see me?
We can, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this time. I think it's incredibly important in this moment to listen to what the youth have to say, because the youth have been the head of this change movement for years now. This is not the first push to change the mascot. This has been going on for a very long time. And I think one of the key questions that we have to ask ourselves is what will happen if we don't change it now? Essentially, what we're just doing is prolonging the fight for future children, for future high school students to continue to push for this change. I understand that people have a lot of personal feelings tied up in this matter, but I think all that we're doing by not changing it now is prolonging this fight that future children will have to take up. I also just want to add that the youth of Guilford have been pretty consistent in pushing this matter for so many years, and we have a lot of other things that we would like to see accomplished in Guilford specifically. So the longer that we have to take up our time on this particular issue, the less we have to push for change like climate justice, the less opportunity we have to change for other racial justice issues, including education, about Indigenous peoples in this country and in this state and in this town. So I just urge the Board of Ed to take very seriously, which I know that you have based on past meetings, but take very seriously how much time you are asking the youth of Guilford to spend fighting on this issue that we've been fighting for years and years now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this chance to speak.
Thank you. Matthew Thomas.
Hello.
Hi, Matthew. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I am new to the Guilford community. My fiance graduated from Guilford High School, as did my mother-in-law, and I've lived here for approximately a year. I really have grown to really enjoy learning about the history, learning about this area. I moved around a lot as a child. I spent 4 years living in Arizona, and one of the things I really appreciated most about that experience was actually getting to spend time visiting cultural sites from different Native American tribes, the Anasazi, the Hopi, the Navajo, learning about the different tribes, learning about the different cultures, learning about the experiences that those people had, what they brought to the community, and what it meant when they were brought away from their native lands. Those are things that really stuck with me. I think that a lot of people have brought up a lot of really interesting and personal points. I think for me, one of the biggest things here is that I don't agree with people just using personal anecdotes and personal experiences. I went to the high school, I like it. I went to the high school, I don't like the name. I think the biggest question here is, what do we as a community really care about? What do we want? What do we hope for the future? I thought Kelvin, while I disagree with his final conclusion that we should keep the name Guilford Indians, I really appreciate him bringing up the fact of the whole point of what we're trying to do is learn from the past and teach our children to do better. I agree 100%. I think we should learn from the past. I don't think that we should use iconography of people. I don't think that we should include that. I think that it looks, it's one of the things that someone not from the community will look upon and use that as something to look down on the community about. I think that society progresses. I think that we have to think about where we want to go. And that's the biggest thing, that honoring, I don't think anyone on here wants to take away from honoring the local Native American tribes, Native American history. And I think that the most important thing is that when the board votes, if there is a vote next week, to take away what the majority of this community wants, where do we want to go as a future? I would say, based on the tenor of this conversation, that we really want to move forward with a new community identity, one that respects where we have been, where we are going to go, and reflects the community that we would like to be. So I hope that you really think about that larger context as you move forward. And I really thank you for the time and the opportunity.
I do not see anybody left in the queue. You're muted, Dr. Balistraci.
Thank you. One person who wanted to speak again, who I passed so we could make sure we heard from all new speakers. So Kara.
Hi, thank you for returning to me. Since I submitted my name, I think it's been clarified a little bit by some of the new speakers, but I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that when I was saying that I am ashamed to have participated in using the Indians as a mascot, I do not by any means mean that I am embarrassed by the culture of the Native American people. I think it's a beautiful and rich and diverse culture with many tribes across the nation. And so when I say I'm ashamed to have participated in that, I do not mean that I find that culture to be embarrassing. I didn't have a strong opinion on the topic of the mascot until I got to college, when I learned that there were Native American people on that campus who took offense to my use of the mascot. on my Guilford gear. And so I think it would be, and I totally agree that it would be amazing, and we should include lessons of Native American history in the Guilford education. However, that will not prevent misunderstandings from happening when Guilford students leave Guilford, and there will be Native American people who see that mascot on our clothing and will take offense. And also to kind of echo what's already been said a couple of times, that we shouldn't use anecdote. There are leadership from tribes throughout Connecticut and the nation that have stated that this is offensive. I do think we should put special weight on the Native American voices from Guilford, but there's also the leadership from around the state and the country that should be considered. So I want to apologize if what I said didn't reflect what I actually meant, and I hope that I did not cause any offense. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda?
You can hear me, am I right?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to comment one more time. May I suggest at the very least using the term Monunketuk? For the folks who are 14th generation in this town, I want to challenge you to open up Google Books and research the history of Guilford, because there is a good resource, a text resource where you could learn the appropriate ways that our founding fathers bought the land and worked with the Native Americans. And for the folks who say that they have youth at home and don't want to teach the children the Indian stereotype, teaching starts at home. Teach your children, learn about where you live, and educate. You can't follow political media. You need to learn and create an opinion of your own. I'm very versed in the history of the area, and I just think that it's really, really important to do your research before you come to the conclusion that it could be an offense to people. I mean, there have been Native Americans on this forum tonight who have voiced their opinion that they're okay with it and that it would be an injustice to their culture. And I just want to challenge everybody to go on Google and just research the history of Guilford. I think that you would be extremely surprised about what you would find. So that's all I have to say. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am not seeing anyone else in the queue. Dr. Freeman, am I missing anybody?
No, it appears we've exhausted the queue at this time.
Okay.
We have a Sean Hackett.
Oh. Sean Hackett.
Hello.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah, so I'm Sean Hackett, 98 Pepperbush Lane, Guilford, Connecticut. Well, I suppose obviously. Yeah, so I'm very strongly in favor of changing the mascot, and I want to speak to the point that doing so would amount to erasing history. I think the only erasure of history that's ongoing now is in our social studies classrooms, where fourth graders are taught to revere colonialists and taught this favorable history of the decimation of indigenous peoples. And I think that we can hopefully, if and when this mascot is changed, we can move on forward, as many in this call have suggested, to a reconsideration of the way that we go about thinking about the history of indigenous peoples and the way that it's taught in our public classrooms. And I think that, I don't know, when looking at this question of whether or not the mascot should change, it might seem like this is a question that belongs in the public forum. And I think it's great that there's public contribution on this topic. But I certainly don't think it's a matter that needs to be answered in referendum or anything like that. I think that, yeah, I suppose but anyway, but I think that as an entity that's responsible for educating the youth in this town, there's a pedagogical commitment for the Board of Education to teach an honest history of indigenous peoples. And it can't do that if it uses a racist caricature as its public insignia. And I want to say as well on this this question of erasing history. We're living in a moment now where Confederate statues are being torn down across the country. If you listen to Black voices in the community, you can be assured that there's no threat of the history of the Confederacy being erased. That's a history that Black people live every single day in this country through institutions of which the Guilford community, if you read up on Chef Chris O'Neill, is very much a part of. I don't think that the history of Indigenous peoples is in threat of being erased by changing the mascot. I think if anything, this is an opportunity to stop erasing the history and stop whitewashing it and teaching it as it deserves to be taught. So thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, thank you. We can, thank you.
Thank you for holding this panel. Thank you to the board and the superintendent for their leadership on this topic. I will be brief. I'm a clinical psychologist in town. I have 2 children in the Guilford School District. I am also in favor of changing the mascot. And I just wanted to kind of particularly acknowledge the voices of the current high school students and our immediate alumni in bringing their personal experiences of what it has been like for them to have to go out into the larger world and reckon with their participation in practices that are widely and broadly understood to be racist and insensitive and problematic and have been identified as such for many, many decades now. So I think this change is long overdue, and I'm glad that we're taking the time to discuss this as a community, and I'm heartened by the volume of responses that we're getting tonight. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't see anyone else in the queue. What I may do now is just take a moment to inform people about what happens next. The first thing I want to say is that we are meeting, the Board of Education is meeting next Monday night, June 29th. It is expected that a decision on the mascot may be made that evening. We have heard from many people over email to this point. I would suggest upwards of perhaps close to 200 at this point. I don't have a count, but we heard from a large number of people, maybe anywhere to 40 to 50 tonight, and we really appreciate your input. There will be opportunity over the next couple of days for emailing, continuing to email if people were not heard today, did not feel comfortable getting on camera. So I certainly welcome that as well. I did want to mention, I think we heard it once tonight, and I know I got an email about this. I do want to share with you what the likely process here for a decision is. We, as a Guilford Public Schools and a Board of Education, have chosen to approach this decision by gathering evidence from and considering multiple sources, certainly input from our community. And again, we encourage continued input if we have not heard from you yet, but also input from Native tribes and organizations, from experts who have studied and are worked with Native people, and from mental health organizations and researchers who have addressed this topic. I don't think any of us expect that any group of folks is going to have a unanimous comment to us, but I think we are will approach this as we have approached most decisions as a board, and that is to do it in a data-driven and an evidence-based approach. and we will be doing that with this as well. So I again encourage continued community input. I appreciate those of you who took the time to join us tonight to speak with us. I appreciate those of you who are listening and who've joined us for several other meetings in the last couple of weeks. I turn that over. Dr. Freeman, do you have anything else you want to add tonight?
No, again, I would just reiterate that there is information available on our website. A number of the positions that you just noted from local tribal nations as well as experts are available. And again, I would encourage any community members who have not viewed this past Monday's meeting to please view that conversation. And I look forward to the meeting this coming Monday with the board.
And the board is not going to be discussing this issue tonight, but I certainly want to invite any board member who has something to say at the moment to do so before we end the meeting tonight. All right. So again, please reach out to us if you have something you want us to hear as we head into next Monday's meeting. Thank you again for joining us tonight. Thank you to our speakers for their respectful approach to this dialogue. We certainly appreciate that as well. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we will reconvene on Monday night. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Mrs. Sullivan, a second. Mrs. Rader, all in favor? Aye. Terrific. Hands raised and voices. So thank you again. And we will see people on Monday.